Hello and welcome to this podcast. Today I'm here with Joost and from iGEM Stockholm. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you. You?
Yeah, would you like to tell us a bit about yourself?
Yeah, so I'm Joost, spelled Joost. It's a Dutch name where I grew up, but for the last 2 years I've been living in Stockholm, and I'm now doing my master's there in biomedicine.
Ah, nice. How come you chose Stockholm?
Well, I knew that I want to go to a Nordic country for going abroad, and I found an internship here at Karolinska, and I enjoyed it very much. So I decided to stay here and
Yeah.
try to get into the master's program, which I did.
Oh, nice. How long have you left until you're done, or?
1 more year.
Okay, nice. So, how did you learn about iGEM?
Well, I hadn't ever heard of it during my bachelor program, actually. But in my master program, there were a few people that were talking about it. They wanted to sign up for it as well. So yeah, that's how the ball got rolling for me.
Oh, yeah. So, how come you applied for it?
Well, I read into the scientific biology as first, and I realized that I had done some of it already, but I didn't know it was this complex and like this big. Yeah, that sounded really interesting. And then aside of that, the challenge of having this big team working on a project for 1 year that had to be quite like cutting edge, really new. That sounded really cool.
Yeah. What is your project about?
So we are working with phages and phage therapy, and with iGEM Stockholm, what we try to do is kind of improving phage therapy as it's being used today. The thing is, right now we only use so-called lytic phages, and these basically infect and kill straight away. That's the only thing they do. They reproduce themselves, kill the bacteria, and by doing so, and then repeat that cycle. But we know there is also a second type of phage, which is a temperate phage, which can be lysogenic as well. And in this cycle, it gets into the host and it just remains there, stays quite calm and stable, doesn't really do anything until it switches to the lytic phage, which makes it that killer again. And the benefit of this is that if we are able to get them into that cycle when we want them to, we can use a transporter, well, let's say a bacteria that is not harmful to the patient, and that kind of protects the phages until you reach the target, and only then you make them active. Only then you make them infect the target and kill it, which would result in a more efficient therapy.
Oh, okay. So the other ones, do they do they affect the whole body?
Yeah, they are usually injected, and this means that they get dispersed over the whole body, and that's one of the problems with it. The effective dose is relatively low, and that's one of the biggest advantages of what we plan to do.
Yeah. So is the thing you're doing, is it used anywhere now, or is it?
No. As far as we know, at least, well, don't really look into it. And that's mainly because when you use this second cycle, this calm state, that's when bacteria gets resistance against the phages, because you can find the DNA of the phage in the bacterial genome at that point. So I can see that that's one of the things that kind of bothers people looking into phage therapy. That's one of the big no-nos. And our plan is to kind of make sure that it can't do that. It can't turn into this resting phase. It can't get into the genome when it's at its target.
Okay, so how is that working out for you so far?
We're facing quite some troubles. With the switches up with the constructs. One of the problems is that we can't use the phages itself in the lab that we are allowed to use. So we've made this kind of representing system in a bacteria, which is showing some problems. So on the terms of the project itself, that's going so-so, but thankfully we have an amazing dry lab team that has done some wonderful work, and the human practices is also doing fantastic work. So yeah, we're not getting nothing at all. We're with a good heart to Boston.
Yeah, nice. So what do you do in your team? Which part are you in?
I started off being part of finance, trying to find the sponsors, trying to find the money. Then I did a bit of project development in a later stage, and now I'm mainly on the lab, doing the wet lab stuff, and I'm also already working a little bit on the wiki whenever I have the time.
Yeah. And how come you chose your project? Did you have other project ideas as well?
Yeah, so iGEM Stockholm is relatively unique in the sense that it's all done by students. It's all created by students as well. And the benefit of that is that also the selection process for a project is completely run by us. So we had a few ideas in the beginning, and we had slimmed them down to, I think it was 6 different projects that seemed very interesting. And we had a group of people like expanding on these projects and see if they're actually viable. And then they had to do a pitch talk, and well, one of them was the phage project, and that one got the most votes.
Yeah. So do you have an example of some other ideas you had as well?
Yeah, long time ago. Of course, there was this very like iGEM thing, doing something with plastic degradation. That's one that always pops up.
Yeah.
But I do remember that one of the bigger contenders also was an idea of having a minimalist cell that could build itself if you supply it with everything that it needs. So that was quite cool, but probably more difficult even.
Yeah, sounds cool. So how many people are in your team, and how was your team formed?
We are with 18 people, and what happened is that in the beginning of the year, and that's like I think September, October, the old iGEM people, iGEM Stockholm people, they recruited 2 new leaders. And these new leaders then went on to search for people for their team. And then I think it was in January, we had an interview with those leaders. And based on that, they selected the whole team altogether.
Oh, nice. Have you faced any challenges so far in your project?
Yeah. Of course, like in the beginning, being part of finance, the first thing that comes up is the deadlines to register your team and all the money that's required for that. Now, thankfully, finance is a bit more relaxed, given that the project is running and we've got the money already.
Yep.
Then, of course, with human practices, we always run into these problems of, okay, do we have enough people to do this kind of stuff, or will there be enough attendance to anything that we organize? And obviously in the lab, a lot of stuff is trial and error. Does it go wrong? Well, have to troubleshoot and see if it goes again. Well, so plenty of problems, but always manage to find a solution at some point.
Yeah, that's good. So how did you get your financing? Where did your sponsorship come from?
Most of it comes from the universities, because we're made up of students from all big universities in Stockholm, and especially KTH and the Kungliga Tekniska Högskolan. And Karolinska Institute. They provide us with a lot of money, because the biggest part of the team comes from these 2 universities. And on the side, we start looking for sponsors in different companies and innovation officers. We basically try as much as possible, just try to find 1 or 2 bigger sponsors that can supply us with a bit more money, given that, especially with 18 people, it's going to cost a lot, the whole thing, especially Boston. So yeah.
Oh yeah, have you already paid for your tickets to Boston and your accommodation?
I think we have. Yeah, I think we're all set actually. So very nice.
Oh, nice. Yeah, 'cause it's a lot of money. Like the registration fee is also pretty expensive.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So, what do you think is the best thing about iGEM?
I think, and this, I don't know how this is the case with more university-driven teams, but especially for iGEM Stockholm, the fact that it's all done by students is absolutely amazing. You've got so much freedom in everything. and that's something you won't see, in a lot of projects at this age. And when you're in a stage of doing your bachelor's or early bachelor's or maybe your master's, like some of us, having this much freedom is really, really unique, really nice.
Yeah, I like it as well. What's the worst thing then about iGEM?
Well, you'll probably hear this one more often, but I think the fact that, from a lot of friends, I see them go here and there on the holidays, and we just try transformation after transformation in the last summer. So it takes a lot of time, not just during the academic year, but also during the summer. And yeah, that's a commitment.
Yeah, true. And why do you think people should care about synthetic biology?
I think it's not that big a thing just yet, but it has so many applications. You can find it in basically anything, or at least you can think of anything, and there can be a synthetic biology solution to it. And that's starting to show now, and definitely if you look into iGEM, you see the amazing solutions that teams come up with over the years. That's going to grow and get bigger and bigger and bigger. So even though people don't really know about it that much, at least not in detail, it's definitely something that's applicable to everything.
Oh yeah, true. Do you have any ideas about how the future impact will be of synthetic biology? Pretty hard to say, but
very hard to say. Yeah. But I especially feel like environmental issues. I mean, obviously they are maybe the biggest cliche of iGEM, other than antibiotic resistance. But there is so much that can be done with these microorganisms in terms of getting rid of materials that otherwise would be around for ages, or that, at least stuff that we as humans have polluted the earth with. So I believe that that's one of the main fields where synthetic biology can really help out.
Oh yeah, true. Would you like to work with synthetic biology in the future?
Not as the field. I'm more of a neuroscience person, and should I ever have an opportunity to use synthetic biology in neuroscience, that would be cool, would be fun. But it's not that I choose my direction of studies based on synthetic biology.
Oh, okay, yeah. So what do you want to do with neuroscience? Any specific thing, or?
Yeah, right now I'm really interested in like the regeneration of neurons in the human brain, especially in the adult brain, where a lot of wrong thought is that doesn't happen anymore. So I really like contributing on the fact that showing that it actually happens and seeing to what extent we could use that. But then again, that's still future music. Still first finish the masters, and then we'll see if I manage to get there.
Yeah. So how does that happen? I've heard it from like if you train or exercise that you could generate new neurons. Is that true or?
No. But in that case, what happens is that the connections between neurons get stronger and better. And so the degradation of neurons gets less. So it is good to do like brain exercise and all that kind of stuff. It really helps.
Yep.
But certain areas in the brain actually do produce a small amount of neurons still, even in adult life. And these are interestingly also thought to be the areas that are least affected by neurodegenerative diseases. So there is actually a correlation in being able to make new neurons and having a healthier brain in that sense. So it's interesting to see to what capacity we could actually enhance that or direct that.
Oh, so it could be like a possible treatment for like Alzheimer's if you could use that, or?
Yeah, probably not treatment. At least something to like improve the standards of living as much as possible. Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. So do you have any advice for someone thinking of applying to iGEM next year?
Very, very realistically speaking, think about it very, very thoroughly. It's tough at times. It's incredibly demanding. But on the other side, it's also an amazing opportunity to experience a very large project firsthand, in this stage of your life, and you'll be meeting a whole bunch of interesting people all over the world, really. And yeah, you contribute to something that one day can make a big change. So you sacrifice maybe quite a bit, but it's huge gains as well.
Yeah, I think that sounds good. And I think that's about it for this podcast.
Perfect.
I'd like to thank you for today.
You're welcome. No worries.
Yeah.